S11. Whether you are suffering the financial effects of the global pandemic or there's been a change to your financial situation, for many, this is a critical time to deal with your financial future. So today, we're giving you Retirement Plans, a real checkup. One of the most trusted personal financial experts is revealing her ultimate retirement guide. Author and host of the podcast, Women and Money, Suze Orman, joins us now via Zoom. Suze, it's been pretty uncertain times for most folks. These last couple months have been difficult. What are the most surprising ways retirement plans have been impacted?
Well, you know, many people thought that they were going to have a certain amount of money in their retirement plans to draw income from. A lot of those retirement plans now have gone down significantly. Interest rates are non-existent. So where do you go today to get a good return on your money without risking your money in the stock market? Bonds, nothing exists anymore the way that it used to, Dr. Oz, where people could count on an income, your health, whatever. So now you have to be smarter than ever with your retirement money.
So whether you had a very carefully planned program for retirement or you had no plan at all, some of us might feel like this image, right? It says, I was told there would be an option for me to retire one day. Suze, what is the number one mistake people make when thinking or planning for retirement?
Yeah, they think that they're going to be able to retire at 60, 65. They think they should take Social Security because they don't have income coming in at 62. That is actually, if you were to ask me of all the mistakes somebody could make when it comes to their money, it would be taking Social Security at 62 versus 70.
So what do you say to folks over age 50 who haven't been able to focus on retirement? Is it too late? And if not, what should they do?
Yeah, it's never too late. What you really have to do at age 50 is you have to start a game plan. And I talk about this in great detail in the first chapter of the Ultimate Retirement Guide. What kind of retirement account should you have? What should you be maxing out? Should you be starting to pay off the mortgage on your home so that you don't have a mortgage by the time you retire? Should you be thinking about downsizing? How do you get rid of all of your debts? Things that you need to do and the types of investments that you should be having. At 50, you still need to be mainly invested in mutual funds or stocks for growth. Because again, I don't want you retiring till 70. So you have 20 years to have your money grow. So you need to be really focusing on that.
All right, let's go through Suze's Ultimate Retirement Guide. First, redefine retirement. Explain why you say this includes rethinking what age we retire.
Yeah, especially because we saw such a decline in the market, and who knows when these markets will ever go back up again. You need more and more time now for your money to grow back, for it to earn. And if you retire and you retire at 60, 62, you most likely are going to have to start withdrawing money from your retirement account, and it won't have time possibly for it to grow back. So if you can simply redefine in your head your retirement age from 60 or 65 to 70, 70 really is the new 65. Listen, I'm going to be 69, right about now. And so it's okay. I'm still working. You can work. There's nothing wrong with it. You want to keep working. So if you can continue to work till you are 70, your money has more time to grow. Your Social Security has more time to grow. You have more time to actually take money and pay off your debts, your mortgages. And then at 70, that's the perfect time for you to think about retiring.
I don't know, Suze, I've known you a long time. I cannot see you retiring next year. But in any case, next step, be smart and plan ahead for long-term care. Americans are living longer than ever. People who are 85 and older make up the fastest growing segment of our population. Along with more years, of course, can come health issues. This can be costly. I've seen it firsthand. And so as you say, plan on living until at least 95 years old. Maybe 100's a safer number, by the way, these days. What are the essential things we need to plan for?
So long-term care is really important. You know, years ago when I used to see clients and I thought I was so good. I planned for them. I had money in their retirement accounts. Everything was great. And then as they were getting older, things started to happen. One would have a heart attack, one would have a stroke, and they would all of a sudden end up in a nursing home. The spouse, the healthy spouse, would continue to live at home while the other spouse is now in a nursing home to the tune of $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 a month. It didn't take long for that to take all the money that was in the retirement accounts to keep the spouse in the nursing home, while the spouse at home still had to pay their own bills. The spouse at the nursing home dies, and now the retirement accounts were gone. And I thought, oh, great planner you are, Suze Orman. Long-term care insurance, if you can afford it, all the way until 84, because 84 is the average age of entry into a nursing home. If you can afford it, is a must. You absolutely should look into it.
And if your budget's already very, very tight, then what do you do then to cover the costs of long-term care?
Then you have to start planning. You have to really have a talk with your family, start saving, realizing that you may have to go on Medicaid, because Medicare is not really going to pay for you if you go into a nursing home, but you have to have a plan. Maybe that plan is simply, rather than living in your own apartment or your own house right now, move into an adult daycare facility or into an independent living facility or someplace that if you did get sick, it would be part of, oh, they would take care of you because that's the type of establishment it is.
All right, coming up, number one thing everyone should be doing to prepare for retirement, whether or not you have a plan. Suze is going to tell you why the next step is more critical than ever. We're back with the ultimate retirement guide with personal finance expert Suze Orman. The next step involves your family. Suze, you recommend having an honest talk with your family, even if it's difficult. What do we have to talk about?
You have to talk about the reality that you are going to be retiring and you no longer have the money to be able to pay for things for them, buy them a house, and all of those things. You know, all the people that write into the Women in Money podcast that are having problems, do you know that most of them are having financial problems because the amount of money that they are spending on their adult children? Right. We're not talking about 5-year-olds and 7-year-olds. They're 25-year-olds, they're 35-year-olds, they're 45-year-olds. So you need to sit down with your adult children and say, listen, I'm going to be retiring and I love you more than life itself, but I've given you all I can possibly give you and I can't help you anymore. You should also have discussions as to, should you all move in together, believe it or not? Should you move close to your family so that they can take care of you, especially if you can't afford long-term care insurance? But these are the conversations that you need to have. And when you're younger, you need to be able to say to your parents, I'll take care of you, or I can't take care of you. You need to have a plan and a real reality check as to how financially you are going to be in each other's life, especially when you enter retirement.
And there's one thing everyone should be doing right now, Suze said, it is focusing on an emergency fund. A lot of us don't have one. And for those that do, they may be dipping into those funds in the past couple of months, so they're not quite as robust as they used to be. So what do we do now?
So if you are planning for retirement, you know, all these years I've always said to you, when you're working and everything, at least have an 8-month emergency fund. When you go into retirement, I need you to have a 3-year cushion of cash, not 8 months, but 3 years. And that is because normally it takes 3.1 years from the top of the market to go to the bottom, back to the top. And if you are getting your income from your retirement account that's invested in stocks during a bear market or when the markets are going down, that is not the time that you want to sell stocks and lock in your loss. That's a time that if you had a 3-year cushion of cash, that you would be able to take from your cash and still live and be fine and not have to worry that the market's going up or down. So if you look at your retirement portfolios, just make sure that you have 3 years of a cushion of cash to pay your expenses above what your guaranteed income may happen to be.
And for the younger viewers out there listening, what's the emergency fund goal you want us to reach?
I want you to have at least an 8-month emergency fund. You know, years ago, I used to always say, have an 8-month emergency fund. And everybody else was like, you only need 3 months. You only need 6 months. During 2008, it took about 8 months for jobs to come back and for you to get a job. So now you should still have 8 months. A year would be even better. So every time you go to spend money, think about what you went through a few months ago. And do you wish you had gone on vacation, or do you wish you had taken that money and put it in an emergency fund? Do you wish you had bought all those new clothes, or do you wish you had taken that money and put it in an emergency fund? An emergency fund, things happen. We've all learned that. Now is the time. Your number one priority is to have an 8-month emergency fund.
You know, you say that, I think a lot of folks think it's impossible to do, right? Most of the population doesn't have even $400 in an emergency. So give us some practical steps on how to slowly rebuild an emergency fund if it's been depleted. How do we just get started?
Yeah, you get started by the choices that you make. I know all of you think that when things are back and you're working and everything like now and everything's going a little bit better, it's what you make choices. Oh, I want to go to movies. Yeah, you know, I work so hard, Susie. I deserve to eat out. You think you deserve all of these things. So all I'm asking you is to ask yourself, is this a want or is this a need? And just for 21 days, you're the one who taught me, Dr. Oz, that if you just do something for 21 days, you will break a habit. So if you could just, every time you're about to spend money, if you could just ask yourself the question, is this a want or if is this a need? If it's a need, obviously you have to buy it. If it's a want, can you just not buy it and take the amount of money that you were going to spend on that want and put it in a savings account?
So Susie, if you ever do retire, what do you plan on doing?
Well, you know, what's funny, I don't know if you know this, but when I turned 65, I did retire. I moved to a private island. I shut down my own television show. I stopped writing for Oprah. I stopped doing all these things, giving talks, because, you know, Dr. Oz, I really wanted to know, who was I if I didn't have a standing ovation, if I didn't have television? Would I be okay doing absolutely nothing? So KT and myself moved to a private island. For 2 years, I did absolutely nothing, and I learned how to fish. And I am actually an incredible fisherwoman right now. But here's the thing about retirement that's really, really important, is that it's not just about money. It's about what will define you in life. It's really hard when you don't have a job to go to or people that you're used to seeing, and now you're at home. So a retirement is also about knowing who you are and to finding your passion of other things that you can do. Once I realized that I was fine doing nothing, here I am back at work. But at least I now know that when I really one day do retire or I can't work again, I'll be absolutely fine.
I love your spirit. For more information on retirement, check out Susie's new book, The Ultimate Retirement Guide for 50 Plus. You'll be happy you did. We'll be right back.
Billy Bush, one-on-one.
I went into a solid depression.
Opening up about bouncing back from scandal.
You cannot control events. You can only control how you react. And I reacted really poorly.
That's coming up on Wednesday. Have you lost your job? Did someone you trust let you down? Feeling disappointed can be pretty painful. So how do you move past it and regain control of what you really want? Today we're giving you the Disappointment Survival Guide to help you bounce back and fast. Join me now is Mel Robbins, best-selling author of The 5-Second Rule and host of the daily live stream, Stay Connected with Mel Robbins. Mel, why do you say disappointment is such a complicated emotion?
Well, Dr. Oz, I'm so glad we're talking about it because I think this is the emotion that everybody's feeling right now. Disappointment is complicated because it's like a casserole of anger and frustration and fear and loss and sadness. And whether it's something enormous like the disappointment of losing a job or something small, the disappointment that you can't see your friends, disappointment is everywhere. Spring sports are canceled, college is canceled, internships are canceled, and people are feeling the weight of the loss of normal life. We are actually grieving, which is what's underneath all this disappointment, Dr. Oz.
When was the last time you personally felt disappointed, Mel?
Like right now, I feel disappointed daily based on what's going on. I am disappointed all the time in small ways.
So Mel, because she's experienced it personally and she knows what you're feeling, has developed a Disappointment Survival Guide to help everyone watching regain control of what you all really want. The first step is you got to feel it. Don't try to fix it. Feel it, don't fix it. What does that mean, Mel?
Well, this is a big one. You see, you're feeling micro losses all day long, a loss of freedom, a loss of independence, a loss of your social life, maybe a loss of your income. And if you push this disappointment down, it is going to build up inside of you and eat you alive. It's going to make you snap at your kids. It's going to make you feel anxious. You got to pause. You got to recognize it. You got to feel it, because that's the only way you can move through it. And by the way, if you've got partners or kids that are disappointed, don't be giving them a lecture about how they need to be grateful right now, because you invalidate what they're feeling and they're going to act out. You need to give people a space to talk about the sadness that they're feeling. And the one thing I've noticed, Dr. Oz, I don't know if you feel this way too, is a lot of us then discount the loss, because we say, I don't have any right to feel guilty right now. I don't have any right to feel sad. I have a roof over my head. I can pay my bills right now. The thing is that if you allow yourself to move through your own feelings, it only expands your empathy and your ability to show up whole and move through this with resilience. Super important first step, Dr. Oz.
So you don't invalidate others' disappointment, and about yourself, because as you point out, we're harshest on ourselves. We have a right to be disappointed.
Absolutely. Every one of us has experiences losses all day long. On Sunday, I went to the grocery store and there was a long line outside of Trader Joe's because they were rationing access. And I felt this extreme sense of loss and sadness. That's grieving normal life. You got to move through it. And this is part of the resilience that you and I keep talking about. The opportunity in this moment is to teach yourself how to cope with things that feel negative and uncomfortable.
So sometimes it's a good thing to be disappointed, right? You get through it, you get better.
Well, I think it's a very good thing. And one thing that you can do to help yourself is every night at dinner, we play the 0 to 10 game. We go around and we ask everybody in the family, how you feeling today? 0 to 10. Yesterday, I was a 1. And my son looked at me and was like, you're a 1? Why? And I started to explain. He said, stop talking, because I'm a 9 today. And now you're bringing me down to a 7. But what happens is when you talk about it, it gives your family and friends the way to help you move through it and also become more resilient.
And finally, you want us to find a visual anchor. What does that mean?
So important, Dr. Oz. We are going to get through this. This is temporary. Life will go back to a new normal. Pick, where are you going to go? What's the thing you're the most excited to do when you get out of quarantine? Is it to go to a concert, back to work? For me, it's to go home to Michigan. I grew up on Lake Michigan and Muskegon, Michigan, and going to the state park, seeing my family, my parents, and the house I grew up with. That is the anchor that makes me feel more resilient, because it reminds me that this will pass and I'm going to get through this, and so will you.
Now, I understand you brought your own visual anchor. You have it there?
I do. And I think you guys have a copy of it, but just in case you don't, here it is. This hangs in my office, walking through those sand dunes right out to Lake Michigan. Where are you going to go, Dr. Oz? What are you doing when you get out of quarantine?
I think I'll go down to Florida and walk on the beach so my feet can touch the warm water. It's the Century experience that I'm missing.
Well, why don't you run your bathtub tonight? Make yourself a drink and stick your toes in it there, and hold up your little image there.
All right, it'll work, I tell you. You can watch Stay Connected with Mel Robbins every day at noon on all social media platforms. Don't miss her. She's got lots of wonderful wisdom. Mel, take care.
See you later.
We'll be right back. We're counting down the biggest celebrity meltdown moments, from the tragic to the bizarre and downright head-scratching outbursts. And answering the question, could there be a medical reason behind the behavior? Joining me is the always bold senior reporter for the New York Post, Page 6, Francesca Baccardi, psychotherapist to the stars, Dr. Mike Dow, and pop culture queen, SiriusXM radio host of Revelations, Debbie Smith. Now, the first meltdown on our list is considered to be perhaps the most public of any star in history. Yeah. One we all watched with worry, Britney Spears.
It started with a quickie Vegas wedding to a childhood friend. The marriage lasted only 55 hours. Then another wedding, this time to Kevin Federline. Right away, she had 2 sons. But Britney and Kevin divorced 3 years later. Both fought for sole custody. After that, Britney started to spiral. Who can forget the shots of her partying with abandon, walking shoeless into a gas station bathroom, shaving her famous blonde locks? And then, in between rehab stints, the bull-headed pop star got violent, smashing car windows with an umbrella. All the while, the paparazzi kept snapping pics.
I remember watching all this unfold before my eyes, and as a doctor and as a father, I was concerned. So, Dr. Dow, the real reason behind Britney's bizarre behavior.
Yeah, so this really looks like bipolar disorder to me. You have these episodes where you're not sleeping, grandiosity, sometimes even violent episodes, like Britney smashing that car with that umbrella. The manic episodes tend to last sometimes months, usually on average 3 to 4 months, and then also depressive episodes. So it really does make sense when you look at her through the lens of mental illness.
Yeah.
So, baby, in light of that probable concern, of that concern that it led to a conservatorship.
Yes.
And I don't know much about him. If you could explain it to the audience. And it was controlled by her father. What does
Controlled
that
by a father
specifically
and by another professional. But it's tragic because basically we traditionally see conservatorships or guardianships when people are very elderly or when they're developmentally disabled. And for me, what's even more alarming is the fact that she's not contested it. So it's been under, she's had this conservatorship for 12 years or so.
Yeah, at least
and
12.
And she's never contested it.
But that's interesting. That tells me that she knows that she has something that needs to be controlled. One of the symptoms of a manic episode that occurs within bipolar disorder is you spend a lot of money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe she knows that this is something that needs to happen, that somebody else needs to be controlling that. And if so, good.
In the end, it's a talented young woman without question. We all wish her the best. But it's an uphill battle. But I got so many friends with bipolar disorder who do so well when they finally figure out that balancing act.
That's the thing. Mental illness is treatable. Bipolar disorder is a treatable disorder.
Like Brittany Amanda Bynes is another celebrity placed under conservatorship of her parents after a so-called meltdown of her own. This episode is next on her list. What kind of behavior, Francesca, do we see from her?
It was more what we didn't see. She was another one who was acting incredibly erratically starting around 2012. She was getting involved in various hit and runs, then she would later deny them on Twitter, then she was tweeting erratically. Yeah. She was saying incredibly inappropriate things, targeting Jake and Rihanna.
Things,
yes, I apologize for being crude, but she said she had hoped Drake would murder her female parts.
Yeah.
She blamed Rihanna for Chris Brown's abuse, but she always deleted and said it wasn't her. Then she eventually got in trouble with drugs and was arrested for felony assault after she threw a bong out the window. And after that, eventually she, sought help and was institutionalized and now appears to be on the mend, but it was...
She just graduated from a fashion institute.
Yes, in California.
Los
Yep.
Angeles,
So what's the diagnosis here, Dr. Dow?
I think schizophrenia, possibly bipolar disorder, which we tend to see a little bit of psychosis, but probably schizophrenia. And if you smoke marijuana and you have schizophrenia, it makes things a lot worse. So I think there was drugs involved. But then also, we know that genetically, you can have genetic loading. So two identical twins can both have the genetic loading for schizophrenia, but one of those twins can have a really stressful up and down life, like the life of a movie star, and then those genes get turned on, and then that twin has schizophrenia, the other doesn't. So isn't it so interesting, this combination of nature and nurture and how that maybe played out in this celebrity's life?
So if she wasn't a star, she hadn't grown up from childhood in front of cameras, you think you could have had a different outcome?
It's possible. It's possible. I think most people with schizophrenia, they will go through something in their life. But is it possible that had she had a more serene, quiet life, could those genes never have been activated? It is possible.
When we talk about mental health, and of course we need to treat illnesses of the brain like they're broken parts of our body elsewhere, broken bones, it's going to help all of us because there'll be less stigma. All right, the next celeb meltdown moment belongs to Bill O'Reilly on the set of Inside Edition. Wow. He had trouble understanding what was written on the teleprompter. Take a look. He lost his temper, big time.
What does that mean, to play us out?
Sting is going to do, it's a video, Sting video.
What is...
For credits.
I don't know what that means, to play us out. What does that mean? To end the show?
Yeah.
All right, go.
In 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it.
Okay. In 5, 4, 3.
That's tomorrow, and that is it for us today. And we will leave you with a... I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. Do it live. I'll write it, and we'll do it live.
Wow.
Live.
So
Oh, Dr. Oz.
it might be an occupational hazard. You do sometimes get hot under the collar.
I've never seen you like that, Dr. Oz.
No, well, he's a class act, but I will say on this, I've maybe had a few meltdowns on set a couple of times, but nothing like that.
So anger management, is that what we should be thinking about if we were to get, if someone that we know is getting angry like that, Dr. Dow, what are the options?
Yeah, so they need some anger management therapy, so cognitive behavioral therapy. Mindfulness is great, so teaching ourselves to actually look at what we are experiencing, because we all go into that fight or flight mode. We get irritated. It's, can we watch it and can we not react? The problem is what he did with his feelings and thoughts in that moment. He just let them take over. And mindfulness can really separate your feelings from your actions.
So Bill has that reputation for his hot temper, but he's not the only one. Actor Shia LaBeouf, who's next on our list, is known for getting rowdy. Here he's going off on a bartender refusing to serve someone French fries. That's right, French fries.
Asking you about French fries, you want to hit me in the head with the grape juice bottle. They want to hit me with a grape juice bottle about French fries. You racist. Talk to me. You up.
And in case any of you are going to get upset like that, the 2 hours after an angry outburst, the chance of having a heart attack doubles.
Oh, wow.
Is it really worth it?
No, I would think
Up next, we continue with our countdown. Can you guess which celebrity blew more than $150 million on things like shrunken heads and a pet crocodile in the midst of what some call a meltdown? Think about that. The answer when we come back. Page Six's Francesca McCarty, psychotherapist of the stars, Dr. Mike Dow, and Sirius XM radio host of Bevelations, Bevy Smith. We are counting down the most shocking celebrity meltdowns of all time. The next one is going to cost this actor millions. It's Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas, Mr. Cage, up top!
Hollywood star Nicolas Cage should be filthy rich, but he's not. Somehow he managed to blow through $150 million. On what, you ask? On things like exotic cars, yachts, European castles, even a deserted island in the Bahamas. That purchase cost him $3 million. But Cage is a bit eccentric. He bought some shrunken pygmy heads and also sprung for exotic animals like a pet octopus, an albino cobra, and a crocodile. He also paid about $3.5 million for this haunted house in New Orleans, where he was once arrested for public drunkenness. Cage plans to be buried here in this famous New Orleans graveyard inside this pyramid mausoleum allegedly built at the behest of a psychic who told Cage he was under a voodoo curse.
So can money drive you mad?
I think this is the case, right? I've actually visited that mausoleum, and it's really insane because it's like just a concrete pyramid, and it stands out in the middle of all these classic New Orleans above ground, mausoleums, and it's like, what? And then you find it's owned by Nick Cage, and then it makes sense.
Well, you have to actually have two families move their plots in order to put it there.
Really?
Yeah, so you've really gone to quite extreme measures.
Disturbing the dead.
So a break with reality, Dr. Dow. What is this about? What's going on?
Man, when you have some existing mental illness or just maybe a little bit of a screw loose, your personality traits are just a little off, and then you throw money on that, whew, it's like throwing water on a grease fire, right? It just kind of goes out of control. And again, like so many of these Hollywood celebrities, there are no consequences to shape their behavior. So they just keep on going and keep on spending, and you're buying, what? A pet octopus?
Exactly.
But you know what's interesting to me is that, one, this is someone who should have had a conservator, but that's neither here nor there.
Or a good business manager.
But someone like Leonardo DiCaprio buys dinosaur fossils at auction all the time, and we don't bat an eye. But then Nicolas Cage buys a pygmy skull in addition to all of these other purchases, and we're quick to ask if he's gone mad. But I wonder if it's just an addiction, too. Like, are you just a shopping like a shopaholic.
Could be, yeah.
Johnny Depp was another one who blew all of his money and is in an ongoing lawsuit against his accountants and managers. So I wonder if it's a little bit of both, if they just pair well together.
Cage, is he bankrupt? Is he broke?
He filed for bankruptcy.
Oh, wow, that's insane.
Yes.
Wow. That's how he knew he spent more than $150 million, because that's how much he'd made. Our next shocking celebrity meltdown belongs to R&B artist Chris Brown. His fall from grace happened the moment we saw this photo of his then-girlfriend, Rihanna. He pleaded guilty to assaulting her and was sentenced to 5 years of probation, 180 days of community service, and 1 year of anti-domestic violence programs. Baby, what do you think about that judgment? Was it too lenient?
I don't think it was too lenient because, and this might get me in a lot of trouble, but he was only 19 years old. And Dr. Oz, I think you know that the brain does not mature until what?
23, 24.
Exactly.
No matter what they tell you.
No matter what they tell you, which is why we have different laws for juveniles when they commit crimes versus adults, you know? Right. So I feel like the judge did the right thing by giving him a second chance.
I have to disagree. I think there should have been jail time. You know, I understand your point, but I also think that this is a young adult who had an undeveloped brain who could have had that opportunity with a little bit of jail time. Because let's be real, a celebrity on probation, their life is still easy. Their life is still great.
But jail doesn't really rehabilitate anyone either, as we see time and again in our criminal justice system.
I agree.
Especially not for young black men.
I agree.
They get thrown away.
But I think some court-ordered therapy with, you know, like at least a 30, 60-day stay to say, I can't do this again, because I think he did something again.
Well, let's talk about this. Drama continued when he had a meltdown after his interview with Robin Roberts on GMA. He allegedly stormed off the set, broke a window in a violent rampage.
Still under the age of 25, I will say.
Francesca, what happened? He's getting older.
But he still is abusing. The cycle hasn't been broken. And what happened on GMA with Robin Roberts is exactly that highlights that. He was there to promote his album. She brought up Rihanna, as a good journalist would. You have to ask these questions no matter how hard. He was visibly agitated. He continued to get increasingly more angry, but he answered to the best of his ability, plugged his album like any celebrity would. But then afterwards, after performing his song, he stormed off set, removed his shirt, ran into the producer who produced the segment, who immediately got out of Dodge. He went to his dressing room, smashed a window with his shirt still off, and fled the scene before anyone from GMA even noticed the broken window. But then there were paparazzi photos taken of him outside of GMA leaving, without his shirt on still. So clearly his rage issues were still very much intact, but then it also sparked the question, was taking his shirt off and all of this another publicity stunt for his album that was coming out at the time? But clearly there was still an issue for him to act out that way.
Well, and that scares me, because if you're supposed to be on your best behavior at GMA on set and you can't keep it together and you're going to do something so publicly, imagine how bad it must be behind closed doors at home still, right?
And doing it at a news organization, no less.
Do we get people help for their mental health issues, or do we just throw them in jail and
we give them help without question, but they have to know there's no choice but to get help. And the biggest problem that you have is you get surrounded by enablers, especially if you're a celebrity, who aren't going to confront you the way you need. The biggest thing you can do to someone that you love is tell them the truth. So I'll take a moment to say that if you are someone that you know is a victim of domestic violence, there are resources for you. We're going to put them on DrOz.com. Do not tolerate getting beaten up. I don't care what the reason is. Francesca, thank you as always. Dr. Dow.
Thank you.
Bev. Dr. Dow's new book's called The Sugar Brain Fix. I'll be right back. It's a refrigerator staple everyone's gone wild for. But is store-bought hummus really as healthy as it seems? It's an investigation you won't want to miss. We are in a supermarket hummus boom. Americans' rising appetite for hummus has reached epic proportions. Listen carefully, $725 million of hummus are being sold in stores every year, and farmers have quadrupled their production of chickpeas. It is popular. But as new varieties and flavors take over grocery shelves, we have to ask, has this revered healthy snack turned into just another junk food? And what's up with the dessert hummus? How does that work? Today, we investigate. Taco hummus? Buffalo style? Brownie and snickerdoodle? Options in your supermarket aisle have transitioned from ho-hum hummus to new varieties that sound more like junk food. Christine Sahadi Whalen has watched the hummus boom up close from her family's Middle Eastern grocery, Sahadi's, which has been hawking hummus in Brooklyn, New York since 1948.
Oh yeah, sales probably have quadrupled on hummus in the last decade, I want to say.
In fact, hummus is now the best-selling item at the deli counter.
In the Middle East, hummus is a simple food. It's available breakfast, lunch, and dinner, nighttime. It's just always there. Here, hummus has become a dynamic product, and it's a huge part of what we do in our deli.
But is store-bought hummus the same Middle Eastern health food they're making it Sahadis? And that's been around for centuries. Or is it really a junk food in disguise? Joining me is consumer trends expert Heather Herzog, who's been tracking the Hummus Boom, and five-time James Beard award-winning chef Michael Salmanoff. They're both here. His flagship Israeli restaurant, by the way, is called Zahav, has been called the best restaurant in America, and it's known for its world-famous hummus. I've never personally been invited, but I'm just saying. All right, let's get into this. What do we know about this Hummus Boom? Where did it come from?
So we're talking about 25% of American households that stock hummus in their refrigerators. So you had the stats up on the screen. It was 725 million. We're talking about almost closer to $1.1 billion as we get into 2022 of average sales of hummus. And we're comparing that to 20 years ago, it was $5 million. And part of the reason why is because, one, convenience. So you think about it, there's all these different types of hummus. There's, brownie hummus over here. There's everything hummus. So the more variety there is, the more that the hummus flies off the shelves and they restock it, and it's just an ongoing cycle.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Coming over here, Michael. So your Middle Eastern background inspires your cooking. What's the secret to making hummus just at home, if you're just by yourself without having to get in the store? And I'll get to that part in a second.
Well, yeah, that's a great question. So I think that for me, simplicity. I think that if you want good hummus, you have good tahina, which is 100% sesame paste. No additives, no nothing, no even added salt. Very, very simple. A little bit of lemon juice, cumin, which I love, salt, ice water, a little bit of garlic, and chickpeas. And you know hummus. You've grown up with hummus before. This takes 5 minutes to make if you want to make it yourself. Or you could buy it, which is definitely much more convenient, but I just don't think.
When I was growing up, and I have a little image of my family, this is a real picture of us, we would eat hummus, and you couldn't buy it in a store.
No.
You could buy it in a restaurant, but you're on the beach, they give you hummus. You're working in the fields, you're eating hummus because it's easy to pour it around and it tastes good on everything.
Honestly, at a bus stop at 2 o'clock in the morning, spread on pita for lunch, and now in carrots and with pretzels all day long. It's delicious.
So let's go through, again, since you're a foremost expert on hummus, let's just break it down to the store stuff, because that's what people are probably going to be going after.
Right.
So he looked into how the store-bought hummus lasts so long, which is a big question for me, because normally, how long would that hummus last?
Well, so fresh hummus, I think, is 3 to 5 days.
3 to 5 days.
Yep.
This stuff lasts for weeks.
It lasts for weeks, right? And there's probably
why?
2 very big factors in this. One of them is a little bit scary, potassium sorbate. You wouldn't add it onto anything that you make. So potassium sorbate.
It doesn't mean it's dangerous. It's just not natural. It's not what we normally put in our foods.
It's not natural, unlike citric acid or lemon, essentially, which is also a preservative, but it doesn't have the same. It doesn't have the. It's not quite as shelf stable.
You can put that in there instead of this. It's probably better for you.
This in there definitely, and it's something that we know. And this, being stable, being 2 months unopened on a shelf is, I guess, important from a manufacturer perspective. But from a diner, from somebody that likes to eat, I want lemon. I want citric acid.
All right, next, the insider chef secrets for making store-bought hummus taste homemade. This is the part you really want to pay attention to.
Right.
And step one is the simple, you argue, is putting it in the food processor.
I know, this is sort of the big cheat. So the thing about good hummus, in my opinion, is having it room temperature to warm. So what I do is, if you're gonna go store-bought hummus, that's fine. Try to find hummus that doesn't have a huge ingredient list. Put it in your food processor or in your blender and run it for a few minutes. And the motor will actually warm it up. I'm telling you, this is like night and day. It makes something that could be very mediocre quite delicious. And then get some fancy olive oil on there. Let's just do this, a little swoosh.
If you make it look so elegant, it's store-bought hummus. I love it.
There we go. Don't tell any of your friends. Just make sure to invite Dr. Oz to your house.
Exactly.
He doesn't make you feel guilty about it later.
So
all right?
they're whining and complaining.
Tons of olive oil, okay? If you want to blast a little lemon on there, no problem. A little bit of parsley, also very good. But this room temperature to warm hummus is life-changing.
Heaven. Thank you very much. Stick with us. Can where you place your scale make you weigh less or more, cause you to scratch your head or freak out? Well, guess what? Today, a scale test to reveal the truth. Does where you place your scale matter? Have we been using our scales all along the wrong way? Rachel says she's always wondered this question. I have too.
Thanks.
What have you wondered?
So I've wondered that when I put it on top of the carpet, I weigh more as to when I put it on a hardwood floor.
Doesn't it make you mad?
Absolutely.
Oh, gets frustrating. So I actually asked my medical unit to look into this.
Yeah.
Right, these guys are wonderful at doing all the heavy lifting, and they actually investigated it by weighing themselves on all different kinds of floors. So, for example, hardwood floors, right? You all seen hardwood floors? That seems to work out okay for most people, but then when they tried it on bathroom tiles, they even went outside and did it on sidewalks, cracked sidewalks, right? Then they got some soft surfaces. They used carpets, they used rugs, different kinds. And Elizabeth from my medical unit team is here. Come on, Elizabeth. She's studying in medical school. She's good at analyzing data.
How are you?
But you did something even braver. You use this technology on yourself.
Yes.
What did you find?
Like you said, Dr. Oz, I tried this on myself, and I found that I weigh more on carpet than I do on hardwood, which was surprising to me was how big this difference was. So on hardwood, I'm not going to say the exact number, but I got a weight that I was expecting, my known weight, versus when I weighed myself on carpet, the weight was almost 10 pounds heavier, or over 10 pounds, excuse me. So it was a big difference.
10 pounds? Mm-hmm. Rachel, would that make you mad?
Yeah.
You'd be depressed the rest of the day?
Yeah, because I'm trying to track my weight.
Yeah. Well, I've been hearing these complaints, so I actually got curious about this. And somebody, I don't know why, actually studied this. Here's why the numbers might be different. You're going to love this, America. All right, first off, scales are designed for a hard surface. See the hardwood here? And why is that? Because when a scale is put on a hardwood, the base of the scale is allowed to bend. You see how it's bending? And that bending allows the calculation of the weight to be absolutely perfect, right? Just the way you want it. Now, on a carpet, the weight sinks into the carpet a little bit. This bowing that we're supposed to have in the middle of the scale where you're stepping, it doesn't happen. The base is prevented from bending. So the scale thinks you're heavier than you really are, which ruins your day, right? So to get the most accurate reading, always weigh yourself on the same surface at the same time every day, a hard surface, and please wear the same thing. That's how you know if you're doing well or not. I recommend right before hopping into the shower in the morning, after, of course, you've worked out. Remember, the power of change lies in the power of you. Just one person with one voice speaking the truth. Goodbye, everybody.